college kid just broke a world record that has stood for 14 years. Not in the Olympic final, not at the World Championships, not on the biggest stage the sport has with the whole world watching, in a semi-final heat, at a college meet, in Eugene, Oregon, on a Wednesday night in June. Jacoby Tharp ran 12.75 seconds in the 110-metre hurdles and took 0.05 of a second off a world record that Aries Merritt set in 2012. And then he said something that tells you everything about who this kid actually is. We will get to that, but first you need to understand just how impossible what happened on Wednesday night actually was. Because the last time a world record fell at the NCAA Championships was 50 years ago. Half a century. That is how long it had been since a college athlete did something so historically significant that the entire professional world had to stop and acknowledge that a kid in a university uniform just redefined what the event was capable of. Jacoby Tharp became the first individual since Dwight Stones in the high jump 50 years ago to break a world record at the NCAA Championships. Let that land for a second. Jacoby Tharp was born on September 30th, 2005, in Fulton, Kentucky. Fulton, Kentucky. Population under 2,000. A small town sitting right on the Tennessee border where the biggest sport is football and the biggest dream is a college scholarship that takes you somewhere larger than where you started. Not a place that produces world record holders. Not a place that produces athletes who rewrite the history books of a global sport. Just a place where kids grow up playing whatever sport is in front of them and hoping something opens up before the town closes in. Tharp's parents were basketball players. His father Jimmy played in high school. His mother Amindi played college basketball for Tennessee Martin and Dyersburg State Community College. Basketball was the family sport. Basketball was the language the household understood. The footwork, the explosiveness, the specific kind of athleticism that the game demands. All of it arrived in Jacoby before he knew what to do with it. He moved to Tennessee and attended Rockvale High School, not a school with a history of producing Olympic athletes, not a school where the track program was a pipeline to the professional circuit. Just a school where a kid with basketball in his blood discovered that the explosiveness his parents had given him worked even better when there were 10 barriers in front of him and a finish line on the other side. He started hurdling. And something strange started happening. He was not just fast. He was fast in the specific way that the 110-metre hurdles demands, which is completely different from being fast in the 100 metres, different from any other event in sprinting. Because the hurdles are not obstacles to run around. They are obstacles to run through, with a technique so precise that the difference between a world record and an average race can be measured in the angle of a single knee at a single barrier. 1 degree wrong, and the momentum disappears. 1 degree wrong and the rhythm that the event requires. 10 barriers, perfect clearance, speed maintained across every single one, collapses into something ordinary. Tharp had that technique from the beginning. Not perfect, not finished, but present in a way that coaches recognized as something they had not seen from a high school athlete in years. The kind of natural efficiency that most hurdlers spend a decade building and some never fully find. In 2024, at 18 years old, Tharp won the World Athletics U20 Championships in the 110-metre hurdles in Lima, Peru. Think about what that means. Every nation on the planet sending its best under-20 hurdler to the same track. The full weight of youth athletics concentrated into a single event. And an 18-year-old from Rockvale, Tennessee, crossing the line first. That result put his name in the conversation about the future of the event. But conversations about the future are just conversations. They do not produce world records. They produce expectations that athletes either fulfill or quietly disappoint. The history of youth champions who never translated teenage promise into professional results is long enough to make any sensible person cautious about what a U20 title actually means. Tharp went to Auburn University on a full scholarship. He kept winning. He kept improving. In 2025, at 19 years old, the timeline accelerated in a way that the conversation had not been prepared for. He won the NCAA Indoor Championships, then the NCAA Outdoor Championships, then the US National Championships. At 19 years old, walking onto the same start line as professional athletes who had been competing at the elite level for years, athletes with Olympic medals and Diamond League titles and everything that separates professional from collegiate competition, and beating them. His personal best at that point was 13.01 seconds. Good. Genuinely good. Nationally competitive good. But not world record good. Not 14-year-old record good. Not stop everything and pay attention good. He also competed at the 2025 World Championships in Tokyo. Made the final. At 19. Competed against the 8 best hurdlers on the planet in a global championship final and finished 6th. Not a failure. A data point. The specific kind of result that tells you exactly where someone is right now without telling you anything about where they are going. 6th in the world at 19 years old. Nobody saw Wednesday coming. Not even Tharp himself. Here is something nobody is talking about enough. Aries Merritt was in the stadium, not on television, not watching from home, not following on his phone from somewhere comfortable, actually there, in the seats at Hayward Field in Eugene on Wednesday night, watching college athletes compete in the event he had owned for 14 years. He had come to watch one of his own athletes. He coaches now, building careers from the other side of the barrier, run in the heat before Tharp's. He stayed. And as Tharp moved through the hurdles, clearing barrier after barrier with the kind of efficiency that only arrives when technique and speed and timing all arrive at the same moment simultaneously, something shifted in Merritt's chest. By hurdle 8, he knew. He did not need to see the clock. He knew the same way he had known when he set the record in Brussels in 2012, because he had felt that specific combination of speed and clearance and rhythm that the event only produces when absolutely everything is working at once. He had felt it himself, on the biggest Diamond League stage available, at the peak of his professional career. Now he was sitting in the stands at a college championship watching a 20-year-old from Tennessee feel it in a semi-final. Merritt said afterward, "My record should have fallen a long time ago." That is not a small statement from a man making peace with the inevitable. That is a man who owned something for 14 years, telling the world that the thing he owned had been borrowed rather than kept. That someone was always going to come and take it. That every year it stood was simply a year the right person had not yet arrived. He also said, "I thought Grant Holloway would break it years ago." Holloway never did. The man who held every other significant hurdles record in the books, the world indoor record, the collegiate record, the American record, never got to 1280. Never touched the number that Merritt had placed at the top of the event's history and left there for 14 years. Tharp touched it, and then he went 500ths past it. Wednesday was when? 1275, and what he said after. Now, understand what Tharp actually said after the race, because this is the part that matters most. This is the part that tells you who he actually is beneath the times and the records and the history. He said his last 3 hurdles were kind of trash. Kind of trash. He broke a 14-year-old world record, the first world record broken at the NCAA Championships in half a century, in a race where his technique collapsed in the final third, and he still ran faster than any human being in history. And his immediate reaction was to identify the part of the race that was not good enough. Not celebration, not disbelief. Assessment. The cold, clear assessment of someone who has already decided that the number on the scoreboard is a starting point rather than a destination. Who looks at a world record and sees the imperfections in it before he sees the achievement. He also said, "I have more in my legs. Let that sit for a moment. The world record, 12.75 seconds, 5 hundredths faster than anything any human being had produced in 14 years. And this 20-year-old from Kentucky told the cameras he had more in his legs. And then he said the thing that explains everything about how the record happened in the first place. This round was about surviving and advancing. I wanted to send a message that I am here and they gotta come see me. He was not running for the record. The record arrived because he was running for something else entirely. Because he was competing the way athletes compete, when the result is a byproduct of the preparation rather than the target of it. When the execution is so completely the focus that the number on the clock becomes almost irrelevant until after the race is over and someone tells you what it says. Tharp looked up at the scoreboard at the south end of Hayward Field and could not believe what he saw. 12.75. He thought he had run 12.98. Thought he had maybe tied the collegiate record that Grant Holloway had held since 2019. His last 3 hurdles were kind of trash, and he had somehow just become the fastest hurdler in the history of the sport. He said afterward, "I am speechless. I did not mean to. He did not mean to break the world record. That sentence alone tells you more about Jacoby Tharp than any time on a stopwatch ever could. Put 12.75 in full context, because it needs to completely land. Aries Merritt set the previous world record of 12.80 seconds at the 2012 Diamond League final in Brussels. He was the Olympic gold medalist from London that same summer. He was at the absolute peak of his professional career. He had the best coaching, the best facilities, the best preparation that money and dedication could produce. He ran 12.80 in a final that an entire professional season had been building toward. Tharp ran 12.75, with 3 hurdles he described as kind of trash. In a semi-final, whose only stated purpose was to survive and advance. Grant Holloway, the man who has dominated this event for the better part of a decade, who holds the world indoor record, who has been the standard the rest of the event has been measured against, held the collegiate record at 12.98 since 2019. 7 years. Tharp did not just break Holloway's collegiate record, he broke it by 0.23 seconds. In a heat. The final was still 2 days away, and when Tharp came back for the final, after breaking a world record in the semis, after the cameras and the interviews, and the weight of what Wednesday had produced, he won. Cleanly, convincingly, NCAA champion, world record holder, 20 years old. Jacoby Tharp is a junior at Auburn University. He is still eligible for 2 more years of college competition. He has not yet entered the professional circuit that the Diamond League and the Global Championship calendar represent. The 2028 Los Angeles Olympics are 2 years away. Tharp will be 22, prime years for a hurdler. Home Olympics on American soil. The 110-metre hurdles final in a country that is about to discover a name it should have already been saying. He is 20 years old. He ran 12.75 seconds with 3 bad hurdles. He said he had more in his legs. He won the final 2 days later. He has 2 years of college left before the professional world gets what it has already started asking for. Merritt said the record should have fallen a long time ago. It took until 2026, until a kid from Fulton, Kentucky, who grew up in a basketball household and found hurdles sideways, arrived at a college meet on a Wednesday night and decided the goal was surviving and advancing. The record was a bonus. The mindset that produced it when the record was not even the goal. That is the story. Not the 12.75. What was behind the 12.75? This is history happening in real time. Drop it in the comments right now. Did you see this coming? A 20-year-old college kid breaking a 14-year world record and then saying he had more in his legs. I need to know if anyone was watching this story before Wednesday night in Eugene, because the rest of the world is about to start watching now. Los Angeles 2028. Jacoby Tharp. Write it down.